Chapter 3:11. Now that Dongfang Yu had accepted Bailey Hongzhuang's channel opening pill, he no longer had the mental burden from before. What alchemists didn't lack the least was pills. As long as they were given the ingredients, they could refine them into exceptionally precious pills. Such a peerless genius was actually the trash that everyone in the Imperial City sneered at. Were those fellows in the Imperial City blind? Dongfang Yu felt a burst of helplessness. If General Bailey knew of Bailey Hongzhuang's current results, he really didn't know what he would think. Hongzhuang, did you take the alchemist exam at the Alchemist Association? Lu Qinyue inquired. I didn't. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a beautiful smile. Previously, she had heard Jiqing mention the Alchemist Association and had planned to take the exam there. However, she hadn't found the time to go recently. Lu Qinyue was even more puzzled. Previously, her master had told her that Bailey Hongzhuang might have an extremely powerful force behind her. No matter how one looked at it, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't an ordinary person. So why didn't she take the exam at the Alchemist Association? Once she joined the Alchemist Association, it would be very convenient for alchemists. If you have time, you might as well take the exam at the Alchemist Association. Lu Qinyue smiled. What are the benefits of taking the exam at the Alchemist Association? Lu Qinyue's beautiful eyes were filled with inquiry. If there weren't any benefits, then there was no need for her to take the exam. After all, she didn't care about her rank as an alchemist. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Lu Qinyue was even more puzzled. How could such an extraordinary Bailey Hongzhuang not know anything about the Alchemist Association? The Alchemist Association has a very powerful system. Many rare ingredients are given priority to the alchemists of the Alchemist Association. This is extremely convenient for us. Then, what do we need to pay? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Since the Alchemist Association was providing them with convenience, then they also needed to fulfill certain obligations. The Alchemist Association doesn't have any rigid requirements for alchemists. However, when the Alchemist Association needs a certain pill and needs your help to refine it, they will pay you a sufficient reward. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes that were as black as ink had an additional trace of understanding. She immediately understood the meaning of the Alchemist Association's existence. Pill recipes were the most precious thing to every alchemist. Therefore, although there were many alchemists, not every alchemist could refine a certain type of medicinal pill. With the existence of the Alchemist Association, there was another way to seek out medicinal pills. The Alchemist Association could directly find an alchemist who could refine this medicinal pill and pay enough remuneration to obtain the medicinal pill. In this way, the medicinal pills would have an additional platform for circulation. This was a win-win situation. It didn't have too many restrictions on the alchemists. Even if the Alchemist Association came to ask for help, alchemists could refuse. It was just that the vast majority of alchemists wouldn't refuse when they enjoyed the convenience provided by the Alchemist Association. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a lotus-like smile, an idea already forming in her mind. Since she wanted to publicly auction the channel opening pill in the academy, it would be best to get the Alchemist Guild's approval. Although she didn't care about it, it was good that no one would criticize her. Chapter 3:12. She had always been a person who did what she said. She wanted to obtain the Alchemist Guild's approval before the auction began. The moment Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of Azure Water School, numerous gazes fell on her. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang came to Azure Water School, she had always been the center of attention. Now, because of the channel opening pill, she had become the center of attention in Azure Water City. Dressed in white, pure as snow, her fine black hair fluttered in the wind, and her appearance was exquisite. She was so beautiful that it was as if she had walked out of a painting. Apart from Bailey Hongzhuang, who else could wear a white robe with such an elegant and otherworldly feeling? Thus, the moment Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, everyone recognized her identity. Gazes filled with curiosity and excitement. The news of Bailey Hongzhuang preparing to auction off 3 channel opening pills had already spread. Everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang still had channel opening pills on her. Now, a single channel opening pill represented a sky-high price. Unfortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang was preparing to auction off 3 channel opening pills to principal Shui's cultivators, so they didn't have a chance. Some merchants became restless, wanting to get close to Bailey Hongzhuang. Perhaps Bailey Hongzhuang still had other channel opening pills on her hands. That was a huge business opportunity. Master, you've become the most popular person in everyone's eyes. Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with excitement. It was as if it could see countless gold coins flying towards them. The channel opening pill was too important to cultivators. Almost every cultivator needed it. Because it had been lost, everyone could only endure it. Now that the channel opening pill had appeared, although it was only a second-grade pill, it was no less popular than a high-grade pill. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a shallow arc. She also felt the gazes of the people around her. Let them look. At this moment, a pot-bellied middle-aged man walked up to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. His narrow eyes were filled with the shrewdness of a merchant. Miss Bailey, I would like to discuss a business deal with you. May I know if that's possible? The man's face was full of smiles as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang ingratiatingly. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the man. She had already guessed what he was thinking when he walked over. Currently, I only plan to sell 3 channel opening pills to the students. I don't plan on doing any other business for now. Bailey Hongzhuang went straight to the point and expressed her attitude. Right now, she mainly focused on cultivation and did not have much desire for money. To her, the most important thing was the points she gained from cultivating in the cultivation tower. Gold coins were only a means to improve her cultivation. She did not intend to neglect the essentials. The middle-aged man immediately understood Bailey Hongzhuang's meaning. He did not continue to pester her and only smiled. Miss Bailey, if you have any needs, feel free to contact me. The man told Bailey Hongzhuang about the shop he opened in Songlan City before leaving. His goal had already been achieved. When the surrounding merchants saw the middle-aged man leave, they understood that Bailey Hongzhuang did not plan on selling the pills. Thus, they did not approach. The Alchemist Guild was not far from the Mercenary Guild. Usually, many mercenaries would sell the herbs they picked from the mountains to the Alchemist Guild, especially the precious ones. Chapter 313. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the tall and imposing building not far away. On the glazed tiles that reflected the light, there was a pill furnace design that was solemn and magnificent. It was filled with boundless nobility and arrogance, just like the status of an alchemist in the Shengxian continent. The Alchemist Guild was not as lively as the Engineer Guild. A dignified and noble aura greeted them. There were very few people inside, but the surrounding people were full of respect when they looked at the people who walked out. From this, it could be seen that alchemists had a special status in the Shengxian continent. Standing in the Alchemist Guild, Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the environment in front of her. The interior of the Alchemist Guild was filled with a slightly oppressive black color, revealing a dignified and solemn aura. The moment you walked in, you couldn't help but be infected by this atmosphere, and your entire person would become strict and serious. Directly facing the front desk of the Alchemist Guild was a large black table facing the door. A graceful woman was standing in front of the front desk, paying attention to every person who walked in. The Alchemist Guild was very large, but there were very few people inside, so it seemed very spacious. In the Alchemist Guild, there were a few people wearing black robes walking by. This was the alchemist robe that represented glory, and only alchemists could wear it. As long as you wore this robe, you would receive the respect of countless people while walking in the crowd. Every alchemist treated it as a treasure of glory and treasured it. However, the alchemists wearing the alchemist robes were mostly middle-aged people. Because it was very difficult to become an alchemist, the amount of time and energy spent was also not little, so by the time they achieved a certain level of success, they were already not young. Lu Qingyue was fully deserving of the title of a genius alchemist. At such a young age, she had already become a second-rank alchemist. Even in the entire Shengxian continent, there were not many people who could do this. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked to the front desk. When the woman at the front desk saw Bailey Hongzhuang arrive, she revealed a polite smile. "Miss, are you here to sell medicinal ingredients or to buy pills?" Young cultivators basically only had these two reasons to come to the Alchemist Guild, so the attendant directly asked. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly smiled. Her smile was incomparably beautiful, and her voice was gentle and sweet. "I'm here to participate in the alchemist examination." As soon as she said this, the waiter looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise, as if he couldn't believe what Bailey Hongzhuang had said. "Miss, you're here to take the alchemist test?" the attendant asked again in disbelief. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said firmly, "That's right." Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang answered with such certainty, although the attendant was a little shocked, he quickly regained his composure and said, "The alchemist test is on the second floor. You can take the test after paying 1,000 gold coins." 1,000 gold coins was an enormous number to ordinary people. But to alchemists, this was not a number that had a deterrent force. The reason why the alchemist examination required a fee of 1,000 gold coins was to prevent some people from disrupting the examination. After all, participating in the alchemist test required an alchemist to observe. At this moment, a girl about the same age as Bailey Hongzhuang walked over. The girl was wearing a goose-yellow dress. Her skin was white and clean, and her palm-sized oval face was delicate and charming. But her eyebrows were filled with arrogance. Her line of sight was slanted upwards. No matter if it was her eyes or her demeanor, they all revealed a thick arrogance. It was as if ordinary people could not enter her eyes. "I want to participate in the alchemist test." Chapter 314. Miss Wei. The attendant bowed and handed another identity card to Wei Meidai. It was obvious that she recognized Wei Meidai. "It just so happens that the two ladies are taking the test together. I will go inform the master." The attendant smiled. Hearing this, Wei Meidai raised her eyebrows and her gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. Wei Meidai's gaze was filled with provocation and disdain, as if a superior person was sizing up a lowly person. There was no need to consider the other party's feelings. It was as if just looking at the other party was the other party's glory. She had seen many arrogant people, such as Bailey Yuyan and Xianyuan Huan. However, this was the first time she saw someone like Wei Meidai. It made her feel disgusted from the bottom of her heart. "Which master's disciple are you?" Wei Meidai's eyes revealed a trace of disdain. There weren't many young alchemists in Songlan City. Those who dared to take the alchemist test were even fewer. She was very familiar with the Alchemist Guild, but this was the first time she saw the person in front of her. She should be an alchemist apprentice from some remote village. She thought that she was amazing just because she grasped some superficial knowledge. How could it be so easy to pass the alchemist test? Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently glanced at Wei Meidai before looking forward. She had no intention of answering Wei Meidai. Unreasonable people were never worthy of others' respect. Wei Meidai saw that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even look at her and a trace of anger appeared on her delicate face. This person who came from some remote village dared to not give her face? "Hey, I'm talking to you." Wei Meidai raised her voice and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with displeasure. "Do I have to answer just because you're talking to me?" Bailey Hongzhuang played down her words. Wei Meidai's words had attracted the attention of everyone in the Alchemist Guild. The Alchemist Guild had always been quiet, but Wei Meidai's words broke the silence. Everyone frowned and looked at Wei Meidai. However, when they saw Wei Meidai herself, they understood. Clearly, Wei Meidai was very familiar with the Alchemist Association. The people here all had a certain understanding of her. Wei Meidai didn't care about everyone's gazes. She only looked at Bailey Hongzhuang sharply. Do you know who I am? In the entire Alchemist Association, other than Lu Qingyue, she did not care about anyone else. No one in the same generation as her dared to give her the slightest bit of face. Since this woman dared to treat her with such an attitude, she would definitely not let her off easily. Not interested. Bailey Hongzhuang's tone was languid and impatient. It was as if Wei Meidai was an annoying fly that she couldn't be bothered with. Wei Meidai's face quickly turned red. Originally, she should have had the upper hand, but now she was being suppressed by Bailey Hongzhuang. Every word she said was blocked by Bailey Hongzhuang, making her choke on her anger and resentment. You! Because of her anger, Wei Meidai's chest constantly heaved up and down. Usually, when she said a threatening sentence, the other party would be endlessly afraid. However, she had never met such a person. Do you know the consequences of offending me? Wei Meidai's eyes slightly narrowed. Her pitch-black and bright almond eyes revealed a threatening and gloomy coldness. This woman dared to make her lose face in front of so many people. Truly hateful. Chapter 3:15. Hearing these words, Wei Meidai was completely stunned. She was clearly the one threatening Bailey Hongzhuang, but now she was the one being threatened by Bailey Hongzhuang? When the surrounding people saw this scene, they all revealed expressions of watching a good show. Normally, they only saw Wei Meidai bullying others, but this was the first time they saw someone making Wei Meidai suffer. I think you're the one asking for a beating. Bailey Hongzhuang's words completely ignited Wei Meidai's anger. Wei Meidai's face was completely red and her eyes were fierce. She unhesitatingly sent a slap towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's deep eyes flashed with a cold light. Her right hand shot out like lightning and heavily slapped Wei Meidai's face before the latter's slap could reach her. Pah! The sound of the slap was exceptionally clear in the silence of the Alchemist Guild. Time seemed to freeze for a moment. The surrounding people all stared with their eyes wide open, not daring to believe that this young lady who came for the first time really hit Wei Meidai. Who is this young lady? She actually dares to hit Wei Meidai. I've never seen her before, but this young lady's appearance is outstanding and her temperament is extraordinary. She shouldn't be an ordinary person. Have you heard of the Azure Water School's Bailey Hongzhuang who has the channel opening pill? Wearing a white dress, elegant and refined, exquisite beyond compare. This young lady's image is too fitting. When this person mentioned Bailey Hongzhuang's name, everyone's faces revealed expressions of understanding. The people of the Alchemist Guild weren't interested in cultivators. What they cared about was alchemy. Therefore, they might not know what kind of cultivation genius appeared in the Azure Water School, but Bailey Hongzhuang, who had the channel opening pill, had a resounding reputation in the Alchemist Guild. However, none of them would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's age was actually so young. You're right, this young lady is most likely Bailey Hongzhuang. After confirming Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, the anticipation in everyone's eyes intensified. It seemed that this was destined to be a good show. Wei Meidai stood rooted to the ground in a daze. She felt a burning pain on her right cheek. Under the burning pain, she felt a deep sense of humiliation. She had lived arrogantly for so many years. She had always been the one slapping others, but no one had ever slapped her. However, this woman actually dared to hit her? At this moment, extreme madness appeared in Wei Meidai's eyes. The curious gazes from the surrounding people only fueled her anger. I will kill you. Wei Meidai was enraged. She couldn't care less about her image and attacked Wei Meidai directly. The moment Wei Meidai made her move, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that this fellow had put all her energy into studying alchemy and was not proficient in cultivation. She was simply unable to pose any threat to her. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang immediately pinned Wei Meidai down on the counter with her hands behind her back. An enchanting smile blossomed on her exquisite and beautiful face. Her eyes were as sharp as knives, like a bolt of lightning cutting through the void. Her voice was cold and indifferent. "Don't disturb me while I'm talking. Otherwise, I'll let you know how to write the word regret." Wei Meidai was stunned. She looked at the exquisite face in front of her in horror. She felt a chill run up her spine from the bottom of her feet. Seeing the fear and nervousness in Wei Meidai's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang released her hand and stood to the side with an indifferent expression. Chapter 316. Wei Meidai rubbed her aching hand. Just now when Bailey Hongzhuang attacked, her strength wasn't small at all. Her wrist already had a purple bruise. Her dark and watery eyes flashed with resentment. Wei Meidai hated Bailey Hongzhuang in her heart. She had never lost face in front of so many people. Only, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength made her fearful. She didn't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, she was really afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang would do something to harm her. "I'll let you off for now. This debt, I'll definitely get it back 1,000 times," Wei Meidai fiercely said in her heart. The front desk attendant quickly walked over. She was keenly aware that something seemed to have happened when she left. Wei Meidai's attitude was no longer as arrogant as before. "I've already notified the examiner master. The two of you can go to the second floor." The female attendant smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang turned and walked to the second floor. When everyone saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Wei Meidai going to the second floor together, they immediately understood the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang came to the Alchemist Guild. Their eyes immediately lit up with interest. In the entire Tsanglan city, other than Lu Qingyue, only Wei Meidai was able to participate in the alchemist examination at such a young age. Bailey Hongzhuang was the third person. Bailey Hongzhuang had just walked to the second floor when she saw the signboard not far away. There were 3 big words written on it: Examination Hall. Wei Meidai walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Her familiar appearance seemed to want to tell Bailey Hongzhuang that her status in the Alchemist Guild was not ordinary. Unfortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't the slightest bit interested in this. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Wei Meidai walked into the examination hall, a middle-aged man was already standing inside. The man wore a black alchemist robe. On the chest of the robe there were 2 shining stars representing his status, a second-tier alchemist. Alchemist Tong. Wei Meidai's face revealed a smile as she sweetly called out. Tong Qingyuan slightly nodded. "Wei girl, today is your 3rd time participating in the first-tier alchemist examination. I will definitely succeed this time." Wei Meidai's eyes flashed with determination. This time, she had put in a lot of effort to participate in the assessment. She believed that she would definitely succeed. Seeing Wei Meidai's confidence, Tong Qingyuan smiled lovingly. "Your master didn't come today? Master will be here later." Tong Qingyuan's gaze then landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. "Miss, are you also here to participate in the Grade 1 Alchemist examination?" "No." Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Wei Meidai looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. She had clearly heard the front desk attendant say that Bailey Hongzhuang was here to participate in the alchemist assessment. Could it be that she had made a mistake? Wei Meidai was speechless. Could it be that she had made a mistake? Since that was the case, what was she doing in the examination hall? Tong Qingyuan had the same doubts. He didn't understand what this lady was doing here. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's next sentence caused Tong Qingyuan and Wei Meidai to fall into shock. "I am here to participate in the second-tier alchemist examination." Tong Qingyuan's gentle face couldn't help but reveal a surprised expression. Bailey Hongzhuang's age didn't seem to be more than 15 or 16 years old. She actually announced that she wanted to participate in the second-tier alchemist examination? Wei Meidai was also stunned. However, in the next moment she couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 317. Wei Meidai's eyes were filled with disbelief. Ever since she was discovered to have the talent to become an alchemist, she had always been obsessed with alchemy. Her talent was already very good, but now she was only participating in the first-grade alchemist exam. In her opinion, apart from Lu Qingyue, this abnormal talent in alchemy, there was absolutely no other person. Little girl, you already passed the first-grade alchemist exam? Tong Qingyuan didn't doubt Bailey Hongzhuang because of this. Geniuses were always rare, but it didn't mean that they didn't exist. At least, their alchemist guild had a living example. Lu Qingyue was a rare genius alchemist in Songlan City. Bailey Hongzhuang slightly shook her head. No. Hee. Wei Meidai's cold voice immediately rang out, hey, I say, if you want to brag, you should be a bit more reliable. Second-grade alchemist, are you still dreaming? Because Tong Qingyuan was present, Wei Meidai's courage also increased a bit. She believed that Bailey Hongzhuang absolutely wouldn't dare to make a move in front of Tong Qingyuan. Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently glanced at Wei Meidai. You don't have the ability, but that doesn't mean I don't. Such an arrogant sentence. Bailey Hongzhuang's tone was calm and natural. It was clearly a provocative sentence, but she said it with indifference. Tong Qingyuan's eyes slightly changed. Bailey Hongzhuang's tone was very thought-provoking. This was already not a mutual provocation between people of the same level. Bailey Hongzhuang's tone meant that she didn't put Wei Meidai in her eyes. This was contempt from the bottom of her heart. Wei Meidai was usually arrogant, but she didn't expect that today there would be a girl even more arrogant than Wei Meidai. You said my disciple doesn't have the ability? Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, a vicissitude and sullen voice suddenly rang out behind Bailey Hongzhuang. Wei Meidai's eyes lit up as if she had found her confidence. The original trace of worry disappeared in an instant. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, her gaze was filled with pride and resentment. Master! Wei Meidai shouted loudly, her chin raised as she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang provocatively. Her master was already here. She wanted to see if this woman could still be so arrogant. Gu Songyun was in a very good mood today. His precious disciple was going to participate in the Grade 1 Alchemist assessment. During this period of time, he had seen Wei Meidai's hard work. He believed that as long as she performed well, it wouldn't be difficult for Wei Meidai to pass the Grade 1 Alchemist exam. However, he did not expect to see a young lady criticizing his disciple as soon as he arrived at the examination hall. If his disciple was incapable, who else could be capable? Gu Songyun's heart was filled with displeasure. Young people these days were like newborn calves who were not afraid of tigers. They didn't even know the other party's identity, and yet they dared to speak so arrogantly. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around slightly and saw Wei Meidai's master. The old man was about 60 years old. His beard was white, but his wrinkled face was flushed red. There was a trace of arrogance between his eyebrows, and his whole body was exuding a noble air. The old man's arrogance was different from Xianyuan Huan's innate arrogance. Instead, it was an acquired habit. As long as it was an alchemist, they would all exude such arrogance and disdain. This was because alchemists were a high and mighty profession and were used to being pursued by cultivators. Chapter 3:18. Grandmaster Gu, you've come. Tong Qingyuan saw Gu Songyun arrive and his face immediately showed a respectful and polite smile. Although he and Gu Songyun were both alchemists, Gu Songyun was a third-grade alchemist, while he was only a second-grade alchemist. Moreover, Gu Songyun was older than him and was his senior. Gu Songyun nodded slightly, but his gaze was locked onto Bailey Hongzhuang. What is your name? You dare to be so rude to my disciple? Gu Songyun's deep voice was filled with anger and questioning. Gu Songyun had always been famous for being protective of his own people, not to mention that Bailey Hongzhuang was talking about the disciple he was so proud of. Whether it was Feng Bo country or Yansu country, there were very few alchemists who could participate in the alchemist exam at Wei Meidai's age. Only Huan Chuyo's disciple, Lu Qingyue, was a true alchemist genius and was slightly better than Wei Meidai. Although this girl in front of him was not bad-looking, she dared to look down on his disciple. That was unforgivable. Wei Meidai stood behind Gu Songyun, her pretty face filled with a proud smile. She wanted to see if this girl would still dare to be so arrogant after her master arrived. Bailey Hongzhuang's long, shapely eyebrows slightly wrinkled, a cold light flashing through her black, beautiful eyes. What she hated the most was the other party's arrogant appearance, as if they were not on the same level. Since the other party was so rude, she had no need to answer. Respect was always between two parties. A mere third-grade alchemist did not have the qualifications to make her answer. Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently glanced at Gu Songyun and Wei Meidai, but did not answer. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude after Gu Songyun's arrival, Wei Meidai was stunned. Did this girl know her master's identity? Anyone in Songlan City who saw her master had to treat him with respect. This girl who came from God knows where actually dared to ignore her master's question? Hey, my master is asking you a question, how dare you not answer? Wei Meidai raised her voice and questioned Bailey Hongzhuang. She looked as if Bailey Hongzhuang had done something outrageous. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was slightly cold. Her ink-black phoenix eyes were cold and distant. Your questions don't mean that I have to answer. Her cold voice was pleasant to the ears, but her words caused the atmosphere to stagnate. Tong Qingyuan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. Although he believed that this matter was largely caused by Wei Meidai's arrogance, Bailey Hongzhuang daring to treat Gu Songyun with such an attitude was really beyond his expectations. The onlookers' jaws dropped. This Bailey Hongzhuang was too bold, wasn't she? Normally, not to mention the Alchemist Guild, even in the entire Songlan City, no one dared to disrespect Gu Songyun and Wei Meidai. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang dared to disrespect Gu Songyun to his face. Not to mention other things, just this courage alone was admirable. Grandmaster Gu is famous for being stingy and protective. Bailey Hongzhuang actually dared to offend him? Wei Meidai's usual actions were all connived by Grandmaster Gu. Bailey Hongzhuang's actions really made me happy. But offending Grandmaster Gu, Bailey Hongzhuang won't have a good time in Songlan City. Chapter 319. Gu Songyun's dark yellow eyes flashed with a trace of anger. He had been in Songlan City for so many years, and anyone who saw him had to respectfully call him Grandmaster. Young cultivators had always been proud to be able to speak to him, yet this little girl dared to be so disrespectful to him? Do you know that offending an alchemist is a very unwise move? His low and cold voice contained a warning. Obviously, Bailey Hongzhuang's actions had angered him. Tong Qingyuan's heart sank. Gu Songyun wasn't as magnanimous as Grandmaster Huan, who would hold a grudge over such a small matter. Bailey Hongzhuang had most likely thoroughly offended Gu Songyun today. Although he didn't know Bailey Hongzhuang, he didn't want Bailey Hongzhuang to offend such a powerful enemy. Thinking of this, Tong Qingyuan winked at Bailey Hongzhuang, hinting for her to say something soft. After all, Gu Songyun was an elder and he believed that Gu Songyun couldn't do anything to Bailey Hongzhuang. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw Tong Qingyuan's reminder, she couldn't help but have a good impression of Tong Qingyuan. She and Tong Qingyuan didn't know each other, yet Tong Qingyuan reminded her. It could be seen that Tong Qingyuan was a very good person. However, if he wanted her to say something soft to Gu Songyun, impossible. Do you know that offending an alchemist is also a very unwise move? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into an enchanting and elegant smile, and her cold voice was also full of threats. She didn't put a mere third-grade alchemist in her eyes. She was now a second-grade alchemist. What's more, as long as her cultivation improved, refining third-grade pills wouldn't be a problem at all. As a result, Gu Songyun didn't have the slightest deterrence to her. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Gu Songyun and Wei Meidai's expressions suddenly changed. They thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely beg for mercy, but they didn't expect that not only did she not, but Bailey Hongzhuang instead threatened Gu Songyun? Gu Songyun was furious to the extreme, but in order to maintain his image, he sneered. Since you have such courage, then tell me your name. I'd like to see what gives you the confidence to be so unreasonable. Rude and unreasonable? Xiao Hei had a mocking look on her face. I think this old man is the shameless one. A despicable person is invincible. This Gu Songyun and Wei Meidai are the same kind of trash. Xiao Bai's face was full of disdain. Master, he must want to take revenge on you. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai looked displeased, but Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. There was no need for her to be angry at such a lowly fellow. I am Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang remained calm and unperturbed. She was not afraid of Gu Songyun's revenge. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's name, Tong Qingyuan's expression changed a bit. A few days ago, Bailey Hongzhuang's name had spread throughout Azure Water City. This was all because the long-lost channel opening pill had appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. The Alchemist Guild paid the most attention to pills, not to mention a long-lost pill. After hearing this news, they also wanted to contact Bailey Hongzhuang. However, Azure Water School had its own rules. No matter what organization they were from, they could not enter the school to look for students. They didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually come to the Alchemist Guild today. Gu Songyun had been in seclusion researching pills these days and didn't know about the channel opening pill. Naturally, he didn't know about Bailey Hongzhuang's name. Chapter 320. Gu Songyun's voice was cold and his eyes were filled with anger. However, there were too many people around and he couldn't act out on the spot. However, if he wanted to teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson, he had plenty of ways. At this moment, a familiar and slightly surprised voice entered everyone's ears. Bailey Hongzhuang? Bailey Hongzhuang slowly turned around and saw Azure Water School's vice principal, Huan Chuyu, slowly walking over. His benevolent and tolerant face was filled with a slight smile. Huan Chuyu had a very deep impression of Bailey Hongzhuang. This young girl actually mastered the long-lost vibrating needle technique. It was really shocking. Vice Principal. Bailey Hongzhuang respectfully bowed and greeted. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang call Huan Chuyu as Vice Principal, Gu Songyun immediately understood Bailey Hongzhuang's identity. Old Huan, she is a student of your school? Huan Chuyu smiled and nodded. Correct. Bailey Hongzhuang is a new student of Azure Water School this year. No wonder, she is really a newborn calf. Gu Songyun sneered. His dissatisfaction was obvious. Old Gu, you are wrong. Huan Chuyu waved his hand. Bailey Hongzhuang is not a junior who doesn't know anything. Hearing Huan Chuyu's words, Gu Songyun only thought that Huan Chuyu was protecting Azure Water School's student. A young girl dares to speak such nonsense. Isn't she a newborn calf that is not afraid of tigers? She has not seen the dangers of the world. Huan Chuyu's gaze sized up Gu Songyun and Bailey Hongzhuang. From Gu Songyun's thorny attitude, he understood that there was a conflict between the two. Old Gu may not know, but in terms of medical skills, Bailey Hongzhuang is fully deserving of the title of a master. Huan Chuyu's expression was serious and his tone was sincere. His words did not seem to be false. Everyone listened to Huan Chuyu's praise of Bailey Hongzhuang, and their eyes revealed surprise. In this huge Azure Water City, Huan Chuyu was definitely a respected master. For Bailey Hongzhuang to receive such praise from Huan Chuyu, it was a great honor. Elder Huan, what do you mean? Gu Songyun's face was still dissatisfied, but there was a trace of doubt in his eyes. He had known Huan Chuyu for many years, so he had a certain understanding of Huan Chuyu's personality. Since Huan Chuyu said so, then there must be some truth behind it. Wei Meidai looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with displeasure. She really didn't understand what kind of background this Bailey Hongzhuang had to make Grandmaster Huan speak up for her. How hateful! Bailey Hongzhuang is a doctor who can cure the poison of the Lulan python. Huan Chuyu smiled faintly, a trace of unfathomable meaning appearing on his calm face. Following Huan Chuyu's words, everyone's expression changed. The poison of the Lulin python was a great taboo for cultivators. No cultivator wished to encounter the Lulin python because once infected with its poison, their life would be in danger. But now, Grandmaster Huan actually said that Bailey Hongzhuang could cure the poison of the Lulin python? What kind of concept was this? Gu Songyun naturally knew how difficult it was to cure the poison of the Lulin python. Even he was helpless. How could a little girl like Bailey Hongzhuang have a solution? Elder Huan, aren't you exaggerating too much? Gu Songyun was skeptical and his words carried a trace of probing. Chapter 321. This time, Cui Haoyan from the special enrollment class was poisoned by the Lulin python. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang saving him, Cui Haoyan's life wouldn't be guaranteed. Huan Chuyo's smile remained. Although he didn't know what kind of expert was behind Bailey Hongzhuang, he thought highly of Bailey Hongzhuang. Whether it was her personality or her way of dealing with people, he admired her a lot. Thus, he didn't mind praising her a bit more. Many people knew that Cui Haoyan was a special enrollment student. Hearing Huan Chuyo's words, everyone's face was filled with shock. If that was the case, then what Huan Chuyu said must be true. I didn't think that Cui Haoyan's injury was cured by Bailey Hongzhuang. Yes, no wonder I saw Zhang Yunfeng thanking Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills are so good at such a young age. It's really unexpected. Tong Qingyuan's face was filled with shock. He smiled and said, previously, I thought that Cui Haoyan's injury could only be treated by Feng Bo Country's godly Dr. Square. I didn't think that it would be cured by Miss Bailey. Haha, Huan Chuyu laughed. Feng Bo Country's godly Dr. Square was opened by Bailey Hongzhuang. As soon as these words came out, everyone stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, dumbfounded. Although godly Dr. Square was far away in the imperial city, its reputation spread far and wide. Everyone knew that godly Dr. Square could cure all kinds of illnesses. They also knew that the owner of godly Dr. Square was young. However, no one thought that godly Dr. Square was opened by Bailey Hongzhuang. Wasn't this age too young? I didn't hear wrongly, right? Tong Qingyuan's face was filled with disbelief. Godly Dr. Square was opened by Miss Bailey? Since ancient times, heroes come from the youth. Huan Chuyu smiled faintly. Gu Songyun had also heard of godly Dr. Square's reputation. However, he couldn't connect godly Dr. Square with Bailey Hongzhuang. At this moment, when she recalled that he had said that Bailey Hongzhuang was a newborn calf, she felt a little embarrassed. Wei Meidai stood there in a daze. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. The owner of godly Dr. Square was a true master of medicine. Bailey Hongzhuang. How is this possible? Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face rippled with a faint smile. Even though Huan Chuyu praised her, she didn't reveal the slightest bit of complacency. This scene caused many people to nod secretly. This was the demeanor of a great clan. If they were like Wei Meidai, who was afraid that others wouldn't know, then they would be at a disadvantage. Even if this Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills are outstanding, she might not be good at alchemy, right? Gu Songyun was still arrogant. Although doctors were very good, alchemists were obviously even better. Bailey Hongzhuang had such exquisite medical skills, but her alchemy skills were definitely not that good. After all, a person's energy was limited. Hearing this, Huan Chuyo's bright eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're here to participate in the alchemist exam today? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Yes. After understanding Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills and hearing that she was going to participate in the alchemist exam, everyone's expression became strange. Previously, no one knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was a doctor. They only knew that she had the long-lost channel opening pill and thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was an alchemist. Now that they knew, they couldn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang could pass the alchemist exam. Whether it was medical skills or alchemy skills, they were both very difficult to learn. With Bailey Hongzhuang's age, It was already hard to believe that her medical skills had reached such a level. Chapter 322. It wasn't that everyone didn't believe in Bailey Hongzhuang's ability. Wei Meidai had been learning alchemy from Gu Songyun since she was a child, but she still hadn't become a first-grade alchemist. Even so, Wei Meidai was still a genius alchemist, because other alchemists of the same age, except for Lu Qingyue, didn't even have the qualifications to participate in the first-grade alchemist assessment. For Bailey Hongzhuang to be able to achieve such heaven-defying achievements in medicine, it was already enough to stun people. If she also had achievements in alchemy, then she wouldn't be human. Old Huan, I don't know how good Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills are, but she publicly declared that her alchemy skills are better than Meidai's. Isn't this nonsense? Gu Songyun slightly raised his chin, his weathered face full of displeasure. The previous matter made him lose face, so no matter what, he had to get back this face from Bailey Hongzhuang. He didn't care how good Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were, as long as Bailey Hongzhuang's alchemy skills weren't good, then it was her fault. Master, this old man is going too far. Xiao Hei's face was full of resentment. This old man was really shameless. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black, jade-like phoenix eyes were filled with a touch of coldness. She was also very disgusted with Gu Songyun. From the beginning until now, it was Gu Songyun and his master who had been looking for trouble with her, but now all the blame was pushed onto her. She had seen shameless people before, but she had never seen such a shameless person. You haven't understood my alchemy skills, so what right do you have to say that I'm talking nonsense? Her cold and indifferent words revealed a trace of provocation. Since Gu Songyun was shameless, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't need to worry about his face. Gu Songyun wanted to first talk about Bailey Hongzhuang's nonsense. Later, if Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't pass the alchemist assessment, then the one who would be embarrassed would naturally be Bailey Hongzhuang. However, he never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually ask him a question. Bailey Hongzhuang, my master is talking to Grandmaster Huan, how can you interrupt? Wei Meidai had been watching from the side and didn't have a chance to speak. Now that she saw Bailey Hongzhuang being disrespectful to Gu Songyun, she immediately jumped out to express her opinion. Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow and glanced at Wei Meidai teasingly. You and I don't know each other. What does it have to do with you? Wei Meidai was stunned. Why didn't Bailey Hongzhuang play her cards according to common sense? It's reasonable to say that Bailey Hongzhuang should be flustered when she put such a big hat on her head. However, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care too much about this matter. She didn't know how to answer this question. Gu Songyun frowned. Old Huan, this student of yours is too outrageous. She really has no manners. The moment Gu Songyun said this, Bailey Hongzhuang's black eyes suddenly deepened. Then, a sharp and cold light suddenly appeared and shot straight at Gu Songyun. Although she, Bailey Hongzhuang, wasn't sure who her biological parents were, she absolutely couldn't allow others to slander them. If you have the guts, say it again? Her voice was as cold as a snowy mountain without the slightest warmth. Bailey Hongzhuang no longer had her previous gentle and indifferent appearance. Instead, it was replaced by a bone-chilling cold. Although she was very disdainful of Gu Songyun, she didn't act out because he was an elder. However, Gu Songyun was becoming more and more excessive, so she couldn't be blamed. Chapter 323. Huan Chuyu furrowed his brows. Gu Songyun's words were indeed too much. He and Gu Songyun had known each other for many years, so he had a certain understanding of the latter's petty character. Whoever angered him, he would think of ways to vent his anger. However, the person behind Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely not simple. He wasn't an ordinary person with no background. Bailey Hongzhuang's question made Gu Songyun lose face. He couldn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang dared to say such words in front of Huan Chuyu. What did you just say? Gu Songyun's eyes were filled with anger. He gritted his teeth and asked again. He didn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would dare to say it again. I said, if you have the guts, then say it again. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression didn't change. Her cold voice sounded again. As the head of an aristocratic family in her previous life, she had seen countless alchemists, but no one dared to say such words to her. Even if she was reborn, she would never allow someone like Gu Songyun to humiliate her. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's sharp gaze, Gu Songyun's heart trembled. In this gaze, he clearly felt a strong murderous intent. As a third-grade alchemist, he had seen many experts, but this was the first time he felt such a terrifying murderous intent. In a split second, Gu Songyun stood there in a daze, unable to say a word. Huan Chuyu also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's sharp aura and his eyes lit up. Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed extraordinary. For such an aura to appear on a teenage girl, it was truly rare. Tong Qingyuan was secretly speechless. His fear of Bailey Hongzhuang increased. From this performance, Bailey Hongzhuang's confidence was even greater than Gu Songyun's. Seeing the atmosphere become so awkward, Huan Chuyu couldn't help but stand up to smooth things over. Since Bailey Hongzhuang and Mei Dai are here to participate in the alchemist test, why don't we start the test first? Gu Songyun was standing awkwardly in his original spot. Now that Huan Chuyu had given him a way out, he took advantage of the situation and walked down. Alright, I'd like to see just how amazing this Bailey Hongzhuang's alchemy skills are. Gu Songyun angrily snorted, flicked his sleeves and walked directly into the examination hall. Wei Meidai angrily glared at Bailey Hongzhuang before following Gu Songyun in. Huan Chuyu shook his head. Only then did he invite Tong Qingyuan and Bailey Hongzhuang into the examination hall. After seeing Gu Songyun and the others enter the assessment hall, the onlookers couldn't help feeling an itch in their hearts. Unfortunately, the assessment hall was not a place they could enter. This Bailey Hongzhuang is really bold. She treats Grandmaster Gu like this, but Grandmaster Gu can't do anything. Master Gu and Wei Meidai are usually very arrogant. It's rare for someone to make them suffer. Bailey Hongzhuang is really something. Bailey Hongzhuang is the owner of Godly Physicians Square. So many people are begging her to treat their illnesses. Naturally, she wouldn't care about Master Gu. When these words came out, everyone nodded their heads. What they said was very reasonable. In terms of alchemy skills, there was still Grandmaster Huan above Grandmaster Gu. But in terms of medical skills, there was no one above Bailey Hongzhuang. In terms of talent, Bailey Hongzhuang was fully deserving of the title of Grandmaster. It was just that she was too young, so people couldn't call her a Grandmaster. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked into the assessment hall. Behind the thick black curtain, the assessment hall appeared in front of her eyes. Chapter 324. Surrounding the cauldron was a high circular platform. Clearly, this was where the judges would be seated. Standing on this high platform, they would be able to see all the conditions of the alchemists participating in the exam. Bailey Hongzhuang, you can choose any seat and prepare to refine pills. Huan Chuyu said. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang walked down the high platform and casually stood next to a cauldron. Next, we will begin the first-grade alchemist exam. I will first introduce the rules of the exam. Tong Qingyuan slowly said. Wei Meidai naturally understood the rules, but since it was Bailey Hongzhuang's first time participating in the exam, Tong Qingyuan specially introduced the rules to Bailey Hongzhuang. The pill to be refined will be randomly selected by the alchemist. You will have a total of 3 sets of ingredient. As long as you can refine a pill within the time limit, you will pass the exam. The time limit is 2 hours. Bailey Hongzhuang secretly nodded. The rules of the exam were very fair. Even for alchemists there was a chance of failure. The higher the grade of the pill, the higher the chance of failure. The reason why there were 3 sets of ingredients was so that if the refinement failed, the alchemist could continue to refine. The failure rate had always been an existence that all alchemists took seriously. Looking at an alchemist's strength, on one hand, it was based on the highest grade of pill they could refine. On the other hand, it was based on the success rate of refining pills. It was precisely because the failure rate of refining pills was very high that every alchemist relied on countless precious ingredients. If one didn't have enough ingredients to practice, it was impossible to become an alchemist. How about I pick the exam topic today? Just as Tong Qingyuan was about to pick the topic, Gu Songyun took the lead and said. Tong Qingyuan subconsciously looked towards Bailey Hongzhuang. With Gu Songyun's vengeful personality, the topic he picked would not be beneficial to Bailey Hongzhuang. Noticing Tong Qingyuan's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. With her strength, no matter what topic Gu Songyun came up with, she would not be afraid. Gu Songyun and Wei Meidai were unexpected variables. She also didn't want to make things difficult for Huan Chuyu and Tong Qingyuan. Since Gu Songyun wants to deal with me, then let him come. In any case, she was confident that Gu Songyun would be the one to be slapped in the face in the end. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had no objections, Tong Qingyuan agreed. All right. Gu Songyun took out a piece of paper from the box filled with test questions, glanced at it, and said, "The pill needed for today's test is Qi returning pill." As soon as he finished speaking, Gu Songyun slipped the note into his sleeve. Obviously, it didn't matter what pill was actually written on that slip of paper. Hearing the words energy recovery pill, Wei Meidai's eyes lit up and her pretty face brimmed with uncontrollable joy. This Qi returning pill was precisely the pill that she had been practicing refining these days. A few days ago, she had successfully refined the Qi returning pill. She didn't expect that the topic of today's assessment would be the Qi returning pill. Even the heavens were helping her. Thinking of this, Wei Meidai proudly glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, she wanted to see how Bailey Hongzhuang could compete with her. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't take this matter to heart. She usually refined the most Qi returning pill. Previously, in order to go to Luo Yun mountain range to gain experience, she had specially refined many Qi returning pills. This could be said to be the pill with the highest success rate among all the pills she had refined. Chapter 325. The Alchemist Guild's attendant quickly brought over the ingredients needed to refine the Qi returning pill and placed them in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and Wei Meidai. Looking at the ingredients on the table, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't delay any longer. With a thought, the flame under the pill furnace started to burn. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang calmly preparing to refine the pill, Wei Meidai was a little surprised. The Qi returning pill was one of the most difficult pills to refine among the first-grade pills. Moreover, every alchemist had a different pill formula. Although alchemists usually had the pill formulas for the most common pills on the market, the Qi returning pill's pill formula was very precious and not everyone had it. Bailey Hongzhuang's calm and composed appearance at the moment, could it be that she was faking it? The Qi returning pill isn't an easy pill to refine. Don't put on an act and just give up. Don't embarrass yourself later. Wei Meidai looked at Bailey Hongzhuang mockingly, her words full of sarcasm. No matter how Bailey Hongzhuang tried to please the crowd, she wouldn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang could really refine the pill. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Wei Meidai indifferently. If you don't have the ability to pass the assessment, then don't chirp here. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's merciless reply, Wei Meidai was furious. She really didn't understand how Bailey Hongzhuang could be so confident. You're just a doctor, not an alchemist. Wei Meidai's eyes were filled with jealousy as she coldly said. Seeing Wei Meidai being so noisy, Bailey Hongzhuang leaned over and looked at the former condescendingly. Don't you know that Godly Doctor Square also sells pills? Wei Meidai's expression froze. She naturally knew that Godly Doctor Square sold pills, and the price of the pills was 20% higher than the market price. Even though the price was so much higher, there was still an endless stream of people going to buy the pills. A few days ago, her master had sent someone to buy a pill from Godly Doctor Square. After careful research, she found that the effects of the pills sold by Godly Doctor Square were much better than the ones circulating in the market. It was really inconceivable. Thinking of this, Wei Meidai's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. Perhaps she could find out the secret of Godly Doctor Square's pills from Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang was the owner of Godly Doctor Square. I don't know which pill master is the pill, but if someone offers a higher price, then the pill will have nothing to do with you. Don't tell me you're the one selling the pills in Godly Doctor Square? TSK. Wei Meidai laughed hysterically. Her face was filled with ridicule and sarcasm. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into an enchanting smile. Her beautiful face that could topple a nation was beautiful beyond compare. But the words that came out of her mouth made Wei Meidai stunned. It's rare for you to be smart for once. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were light as a feather, indifferent and confident. From beginning to end, Bailey Hongzhuang was like a great master, giving Wei Meidai a feeling of superiority. Wei Meidai was stunned. The mocking smile on her face disappeared with Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Impossible, impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Wei Meidai emphasized. She heard from her master that Godly Doctor Square's pills must have been refined by a master of alchemy to bring out the medicinal effects perfectly. If she had the chance to get to know him, her master would have to call him a master. Chapter 326. Ding. Tong Qingyuan struck the copper gong, signaling the start of the test. On the other side, the incense had already been lit. Bailey Hongzhuang no longer paid any attention to the noisy Wei Meidai and began to refine pills. She had refined the qi-returning pill many times, so she was very familiar with the process. First, she placed a stalk of star blue into the pill furnace. The flame quickly engulfed the star blue. In her line of sight, the star blue quickly withered and turned yellow. Finally, under the purification of the flame, the impurities were all removed, leaving behind a pure powder. Bailey Hongzhuang then picked up another stalk of pill and placed it into the pill furnace. The flame engulfed it again. Under the control of Bailey Hongzhuang's mental power, the flame danced like a jumping spirit. Stalk after stalk of medicinal herbs were purified. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were as smooth as flowing water. This flame that was hard to control in others' eyes was as docile and obedient as an obedient baby in her hands. Her delicate and beautiful face was calm and indifferent, displaying the demeanor of a master. When Huan Chuyu saw the way Bailey Hongzhuang refined the pill, his gaze gradually changed and finally turned into a flash of light. Once an expert made a move, one would know whether or not they were skilled. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were so experienced. It was obvious that she had spent a lot of effort on refining pills. Even if it was them, their pill refining techniques wouldn't be better than hers. Bailey Hongzhuang's pill refining was like a piece of art. She was calm and composed, giving people a feeling of beauty. On the other hand, Wei Meidai's movements were slow and awkward, revealing nervousness and worry. She was afraid that the flame would go out of her control if she wasn't careful. Pill refining techniques were also the result of countless trials and tribulations. Only after going through many trials and tribulations would the sluggishness gradually disappear. Comparing the two, one could see the difference between them. Tong Qingyuan's eyes revealed a trace of admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang looks very extraordinary. Her pill refining techniques are so natural, making people gasp in amazement. There was one more thing that Tong Qingyuan did not say out loud. He felt that his alchemy skills were not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang's. It was just that he could not say it out loud. Huan Chuyu nodded slightly, his eyes filled with admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang is indeed a genius. He had seen many geniuses in the Shengxian continent, but he had never seen someone as monstrous as Bailey Hongzhuang. Others might not be able to achieve this even if they spent tens of years, but they saw this from a girl who was only in her teens. How could they not be amazed? The complacent look on Gu Tsongyun's face gradually dissipated. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva, unable to believe what he was seeing. At this moment, there was almost no doubt that Bailey Hongzhuang was absolutely a genuine alchemist. If Bailey Hongzhuang passed the first-grade alchemist test, then he would lose all his face. However, Tong Qingyuan and Huan Chuyo's attention was currently on Bailey Hongzhuang, so they did not pay attention to his thoughts. After all the herbs had been purified, Bailey Hongzhuang closed the lid of the furnace, her spiritual power wrapping around the whole furnace. The most complicated thing was to combine the purified herbs and refine them into a dan. Huan Chuyu and the rest looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent appearance, as if she was taking a stroll in the garden. There was no doubt that she would be able to successfully refine the pills. Wei Meidai saw her master looking at Bailey Hongzhuang as if she had seen a ghost. She was puzzled and could not help but turn to look at the former. With this look, Wei Meidai was also stunned. Chapter 327. Qi. Just as Wei Meidai was puzzled, a sound was suddenly heard. Following that, a burnt smell spread out. As it turned out, when Wei Meidai was distracted, the herbs had already been burnt to ashes. Wei Meidai's face instantly turned ugly. She didn't think that her momentary distraction would cause the first set of herbs to fail. She angrily glared at Bailey Hongzhuang, only to discover that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even look at her. When she raised her head again, she saw Gu Tsongyun's slightly reprimanding gaze. She didn't dare to delay any longer and quickly picked up the second set of herbs to start refining. Time slowly passed. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression didn't change, and she was confident. Finally, when a whiff of fragrance came from the pill, her delicate and beautiful mouth hooked up into a faint smile. The pill was about to be refined successfully. Huan Chuyu and Tong Qingyuan also had smiles on their faces. Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely pass the first-grade alchemist test. Wei Meidai smelled the familiar and quiet medicinal fragrance, and her face instantly turned ugly. Refined. Bailey Hongzhuang actually succeeded. She had previously said that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't be able to refine successfully. Now that she was still purifying the pill, Bailey Hongzhuang's pill was actually about to be refined successfully. Wei Meidai's heart was abnormally chaotic. The last bit of support she had was completely gone. Thinking back to the scene that happened in the guild hall, she was afraid that after today's matter was spread out, she would lose all her face. Qi. Another familiar sound rang out. Wei Meidai's almost finished refining herbs were actually burnt to ashes again. Wei Meidai's face turned green. She wasn't proficient in controlling flames. Once her heart was in chaos, she couldn't control it. Ding! Bailey Hongzhuang flicked her white hand and the pill furnace lid was opened. A perfectly round pill was in the pill furnace. Casually picking up the white porcelain bottle on the table, Bailey Hongzhuang placed the pill into the white porcelain bottle. Everything was so simple and orderly, as if it was formed by nature. Placing the white porcelain bottle on the table, Bailey Hongzhuang looked towards Huan Chuyu and Tong Qingyuan, who were on the stage. It's done. Huan Chuyu and Tong Qingyuan walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's table and opened the white porcelain bottle to take a look. A perfectly round and plump qi returning pill was quietly placed within the bottle. The rich medicinal fragrance filled their nostrils. Huan Chuyu nodded, not concealing his satisfaction in the slightest. This energy-returning pill was refined very well, it can be said to be perfect. Tong Qingyuan also had a look of agreement. Indeed. So, did I pass the first-grade alchemist exam? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and asked aloud. Of course, Tong Qingyuan hurriedly replied. As a Tier 2 alchemist, he was usually sought after by everyone. However, in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, who was known as a godly doctor, he could not put on any airs. Many thanks. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands and smiled. On the other side, Wei Meidai, who was completely ignored by everyone, stood awkwardly in the same spot. The stipulated time was not up yet, but everyone had clearly forgotten about her existence. Was she going to continue refining this pill or not? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Gu Songyun indifferently, and the corner of her mouth hooked up into a mocking smile. There was no need to say anything, the meaning was clear. Gu Songyun's face flushed red. With a wave of his sleeve, he strode away. Let's go. Wei Meidai did not know what to do. Hearing Gu Songyun's words, she hurriedly left. Chapter 328. Seeing Gu Songyun and Wei Meidai leave, Huan Chuyu and Tong Qingyuan did not say anything. If I want to participate in the second-rank alchemist exam, should I continue the exam? Bailey Hongzhuang slowly spoke out her thoughts. Since she was already here, she might as well take the exam together to save herself the trouble. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Tong Qingyuan's expression changed. In his opinion, with Bailey Hongzhuang's age, passing the first-rank alchemist exam was already very difficult. He did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang still wanted to participate in the second-rank alchemist exam. After seeing Gu Songyun get slapped in the face, he also understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was not someone who spoke without thinking. Since she said so, she must have the confidence to pass the exam. All along, he thought that only Lu Qinyue was an alchemy genius. He did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang was also one. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang was also proficient in medicine. Comparing the two, Bailey Hongzhuang could be called a demon. Huan Chuyu was not too surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang was not an ordinary person. It seemed that anything that happened to her would not be strange. Miss Bailey, you still cannot participate in the second-rank alchemist exam. Tong Qingyuan replied. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Her clear eyes revealed some doubts. Why? We need to first register your first-rank alchemist identity and inform the other alchemist guilds of this identity. After you receive your first-rank alchemist robe, you can then participate in the second-rank alchemist exam. Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood, so it's like this. Tong Qingyuan faintly smiled. After all these are done, it will take at least a week before you can participate in the second-rank alchemist exam. After all, not everyone can be like Miss Bailey, able to pass 2 ranks of the exam at once. Tong Qingyuan's honest voice was filled with sorrow. The time that Tong Qingyuan spent in the Alchemist Guild was not short. Apart from Bailey Hongzhuang, there was no one else who wanted to directly complete the second-rank alchemist exam. After other alchemists passed the first alchemist exam, who knew how many years it would take before they could participate in the second alchemist exam. Even for Lu Qinyue, the time span was not short. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang lightly nodded. Then I will participate in the second-rank alchemist exam in a few days. Under Tong Qingyuan's lead, Bailey Hongzhuang left the Alchemist Guild. After the alchemist robes were made, the Alchemist Association would send someone to deliver the alchemist robes to her. As for the second-rank alchemist exam, she was not in a hurry. As long as his identity as an alchemist was verified, no one would question the authenticity of the channel opening pill in his hands. The reason why she came to the Alchemist Guild was so that the auction for the 3 channel opening pills could proceed smoothly. After Bailey Hongzhuang left, Tong Qingyuan looked towards Huan Chuyu. Old Huan, this Miss Bailey isn't a simple person. Huan Chuyu faintly smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang's every movement is filled with the demeanor of a great family. Her true background is definitely not simple. Then, should we investigate? Huan Chuyu raised his right hand, stopping Tong Qingyuan's thoughts. No matter what her background is, it has no conflict with us. Why should we investigate? If we anger the power behind her, I'm afraid the gains won't make up for the losses. Chapter 329. The moon was bright, the stars were sparse, and the cool breeze was like water. Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating in her room when suddenly, a series of footsteps came from outside the door, followed by a knock. Hearing this familiar knocking sound, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes revealed a trace of a smile. After Xia Jiqing had come many times, she could tell that it was Xia Jiqing just by listening to the sound of her footstep. Jiqing, you've come. Bailey Hongzhuang opened the door and welcomed Xia Jiqing in, her delicate and perfect face rippling with a gentle smile. What a coincidence, I was planning to find you tomorrow, but since you're here, I don't need to go. Hearing this, Xia Jiqing raised her eyebrows in surprise. You're looking for me for something? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, her right hand brushing her Qiankuan bag, and a white porcelain bottle appeared in her hand. This is for you. Xia Jiqing took the white porcelain bottle and opened it, only to see a perfectly round pill placed inside. Her mind turned and Xia Jiqing's eyes widened. Hongzhuang, this can't be, it can't be. Seeing Xia Jiqing's appearance of wanting to say something but not saying it, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. That's right, this is the channel opening pill. Hiss! Xia Jiqing sucked in a breath of cold air. From the moment Bailey Hongzhuang handed the white porcelain bottle to her, she already had some guesses in her heart. But after knowing that it really was the channel opening pill, she still couldn't believe it. Such a precious pill. This is too precious, I can't accept it, Xia Jiqing said. Although she had long regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as a close friend, they hadn't known each other for long. She didn't have anything, so how could she accept such a precious gift from Bailey Hongzhuang? One had to know that ever since the news of the 3-channel opening pills being auctioned spread, all the students in the school were thinking of ways to bid for them. Just accept it, this pill will be of great help to us right now. Xia Jiqing shook her head. I know it's a great help, but that's why I can't accept it. She sincerely regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as a friend, and did not want to covet Hongzhuang's benefits. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Jiqing, I know what you're thinking. Since we're friends, there's no need to think too much. Although she and Xia Jiqing had not known each other for a long time, the two of them were extremely congenial. Seeing how serious Bailey Hongzhuang was, Xia Jiqing hesitated for a moment before accepting the channel opening pill. Hongzhuang, if you need me in the future, I will definitely not refuse. She was very touched that Bailey Hongzhuang treated her so sincerely. Xia Jiqing secretly decided that in the future, as long as Bailey Hongzhuang needed her, she would definitely do her best. That's right, Jiqing, what did you come to find me for? Bailey Hongzhuang asked, her beautiful black eyes twinkling with a smile. Oh, I almost forgot. Xia Jiqing then remembered. Actually, I didn't come for anything important. I just heard some news and came to tell you. What news? Xia Jiqing smiled. I heard today that there will be a new special enrollment student coming to the school tomorrow. You should have received the notice for tomorrow's morning meeting, right? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She had heard the news when she returned from the Alchemist Guild, but she didn't know why. Chapter 330. Yes, I have never heard of the existence of a third special enrollment student. It is precisely because of this that this special enrollment student is so special. Xia Jiqing's face was full of excitement. The status of a special enrollment student in the Azure Water School was already extraordinary, and the identity of this special enrollment student was even more special. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes revealed a trace of doubt. She had never heard of this special enrollment student before, and Dongfang Yu and the others had never mentioned it. She believed that they also did not know of the existence of a third special enrollment student. So to speak, this third special enrollment student was really a special existence. This is not the main point. The main point is that I heard that this special enrollment student is not only strong, but also exceptionally handsome. Xia Jiqing raised her eyebrows, her eyes full of excitement. For girls of her age, there was nothing more attractive than a handsome man. Looking at Xia Jiqing's excited appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face revealed a helpless smile. Sure enough, this was the point that Xia Jiqing was most concerned about. This third special enrollment student has not yet arrived. How do you know that he is handsome? Bailey Hongzhuang teased. Xia Jiqing blinked. There is no lack of people in the school who are well informed. Ordinary students and special enrollment students are slightly different. To be able to become a special enrollment student, you must put all your energy into cultivation. However, ordinary students are still very interested in gossip, especially girls. Since you know, then why don't you put all your energy into cultivation? Bailey Hongzhuang found it somewhat funny. Don't you want to come to the alchemist class as soon as possible? Naturally, I want to. Xia Jiqing smiled brightly. When I was cultivating, I heard my roommate talk about it. This news is so shocking, naturally I couldn't help but listen for a while. Now, everyone is very curious about the identity of this special enrollment student. You know, among the special enrollment students, Gong Shaoqing is very close to Lu Qingyue, and Dongfang Yu has a very good relationship with you. How many girls' hearts have been broken, and now only Bai Junyu is left. At this moment, hearing that there is another outstanding and handsome man coming, isn't everyone on steroids? Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. Dongfang Yu and I are just classmates. Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinyue's relationship was ambiguous, but there was nothing between her and Dongfang Yu. Of course I know. Xia Jiqing nodded and then spread out her hands. However, the other students don't know. Senior Dongfang has always been gentle and amiable. He's loved by all the girls in the school. Ever since you and Senior Dongfang got to know each other, everyone believed that your relationship with Senior Dongfang wasn't shallow. I've heard that many senior sisters were crying silently in the dead of night. Master, your sin is too great. Xiao He lamented. Xiao Bai nodded in agreement. If Di Beichen knew about this, he would definitely be jealous. The corner of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth twitched. If Jiqing wasn't here, she would have sent these two furballs flying. It's not that bad. Bailey Hongzhuang said helplessly. It seems that I have to be more careful in the future. Xia Jiqing shook her head and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, looking very serious. What does it matter? Senior Dongfang is a very good person. If you can be together with Senior Dongfang, I will be happy for you. Chapter 331. Looking at Xia Jiqing acting like a matchmaker, Bailey Hongzhuang quickly dispelled her idea. Don't think so much. There is no romantic relationship between me and Dongfang Yu. Bailey Hongzhuang explained with a beautiful smile on her delicate and perfect face. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang being so serious and not trying to hide anything, Xia Jiqing couldn't help but take a deep look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Is what you said true? You really don't have any romantic feelings for Senior Dongfang? No, I really don't. Bailey Hongzhuang was helpless. Xia Jiqing sighed, her eyebrows full of disappointment. It's a pity, Senior Dongfang is such a good partner, but you don't have any ideas. It's really a pity. I don't know which woman will benefit in the future. Listening to Xia Jiqing's sigh, Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. How come she didn't know that Xia Jiqing's mind had so many messy ideas? If you are interested in Senior Dongfang, then you should take advantage of him. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Senior Dongfang is yours, I never had any ideas. Xia Jiqing quickly waved her hand. She understood that she couldn't bully her friend's husband. Hee. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, her eyes bright and bright. I think you and Bai Junyu are good. Xia Jiqing's eyes widened. That noisy guy. I'm not interested. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Jiqing was not interested in Bai Junyu, but Bai Junyu seemed to be very interested in Jiqing. Senior Dongfang is so outstanding, why don't you like him? Xia Jiqing's eyes narrowed, her eyes flashing with doubt. Do you already have someone in your heart? Someone in my heart? Bailey Hongzhuang's mind couldn't help but outline a pale golden figure, tall and straight, peerless. Ever since they met, he had always stood firmly by her side. When he found out that she was in danger, he left everything behind to come see her, just to make sure that she was safe. Xia Jiqing originally just wanted to test the waters, but when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze, her eyes suddenly changed. Could it be that she had hit the jackpot? Did Hongzhuang really have a sweetheart? Hongzhuang, be honest, Xia Jiqing said proudly. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Who knows what will happen in the future? Seeing Hong Zhuang speak so deeply, Xia Jiqing also didn't ask more. After all, there were some secrets that no one could pry into. The next day, the sun shone brightly, the sky was high and the clouds were light. Bailey Hongzhuang woke up early in the morning. Yesterday, she had received news that the academy was going to hold a meeting this morning. Now that she thought about it, it should be to introduce the third specially recruited student. I wonder how special this third specially recruited student is. To be able to make the academy make an exception for him, this third specially recruited student is naturally not simple. However, the monster tide this time has caused the academy to lose a lot of talents, so it's reasonable to expand the enrollment. Bailey Hongzhuang walked slowly with Baisher in her arms. Along the way, she heard everyone talking about the third specially recruited student. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived, Dongfang Yu and the others had already arrived. As the backbone of the academy, they had already come early to help prepare. Only Bai Junyu and Cui Haoyan had not yet recovered from their injuries. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're here. His handsome face revealed a warm and elegant smile. Dongfang Yu greeted Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as he saw her. Chapter 332. Generally, the students of our special enrollment class would come early for the morning meeting. You and Bai Junyu are newcomers, so there's no need for that. Lu Qinyue walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side, her eyes shining. Hongzhuang, I heard you passed the first-grade alchemist exam yesterday? Lu Qinyue was Huan Chuyo's disciple, so Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't surprised that she heard the news so early. She immediately nodded in acknowledgement. Your speed is really fast. Lu Qinyue chuckled. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. In 5 days, I will begin auctioning off the channel opening pills. Taking the exam early is also to prevent people from gossiping. Did you hear? There's a third special enrollment student coming to the school today. Lu Qinyue's delicate and beautiful face was filled with curiosity. This is the first time in the history of the Azure Water School. Thinking about it, this new student shouldn't be a simple character. Dongfang Yu raised his eyebrows, his flirtatious peach blossom eyes filled with an enchanting smile. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, declining to comment. No matter what kind of special character the other party was, it didn't matter to her. While everyone was talking, the principal and vice principal had already slowly walked over. Hello, principal, hello, vice principal. Seeing the principal and vice principal, all the students saluted and greeted them. The two principals walked up the stage together. Looking at the many students gathered below, a kind and gratified smile appeared on their faces. Today, I've gathered everyone here to introduce a new special enrollment student. Principal Ren Tianxiong got straight to the point. As a cultivator, he didn't like to waste time on unnecessary formalities. What he adhered to was that cultivators were straightforward and straightforward. Once these words came out, all the students' eyes were filled with curiosity. It seemed that the rumors they heard were true. They just didn't know who this third special enrollment student was. To be able to receive an exceptional admission from the Azure Water School and receive a grand introduction from the principal and vice principal, this wasn't treatment an ordinary person could receive. As soon as Ren Tianxiong finished speaking, a man slowly walked up the stage. The man wore a light golden soft robe, and his figure was tall and straight. His ink-black hair was tied up with a crown made of suet jade, and his chiseled face was peerlessly handsome. His long eyebrows reached his temples, and his narrow eyes were deep. He had a graceful bearing and was as calm as the wind. The golden sunlight shone on his tall and straight figure, making him look like a god. Everyone below the stage looked at the specially recruited student on the high platform and let out a gasp of surprise. Heavens, the rumors are indeed true. This new special enrollment student is really a rare handsome man. This is the first time I've seen such a good-looking person. I'm drunk. She's the woman of my dreams. All the women present went crazy. Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu had always been their dream lovers. It's just that Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qingyue were extremely close. Dongfang Yu also seemed to have a close relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang. They probably didn't have any hope. Now, this third special enrollment student had surpassed Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu. Compared to Gong Shaoqing's coldness and Dongfang Yu's gentleness, this third special enrollment student was noble. He seemed to be a natural aristocrat. His every movement exuded an innate noble aura, making people intoxicated. Chapter 333. Some people, even if they don't say anything, do nothing, just stand there quietly and you can feel their extraordinariness. This special enrollment student just stood on the high platform and a natural momentum spread out, making everyone not dare to underestimate him. Even the experienced and knowledgeable Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu felt a trace of shock in their hearts. They were also outstanding talents, so this feeling was even more obvious. This special enrollment student is definitely not simple. Below the stage, Xianyuan Huan stared at the figure standing on the high platform, his eyes full of disbelief. Impossible, this is impossible. Xianyuan Huan kept shouting in his heart. This can't be true. Isn't he a cripple? He has been sitting in a wheelchair for so many years, how can he stand up now? In the past few years, Di Beichen has always been the target of his bullying and sarcasm, the mud he ruthlessly trampled under his feet. But now, this piece of mud had the appearance of a peerless talent and had completely defeated him. How can there be a day when he can stand up? Xiao Zifen also stared blankly at Di Beichen on the stage. Di Beichen has always been very famous in the imperial city. He has seen the handsome and perfect, but unfortunately he is a cripple Prince Chen. Only, in front of him, this elegant young master exuding a noble aura, where is the slightest sign of a cripple? Xiao Zifen couldn't help but think of the waste Bailey Hongzhuang, who has been ridiculed by everyone these years. Didn't she also wash away the shame under everyone's shock and become a first-class genius? In his mind, the rumor of the imperial city slowly emerged, a blind man and a cripple, a match made in heaven. Now it seems that Prince Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang really are a match made in heaven. Only this can be called a perfect match made in heaven. Looking at the pale golden figure, Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes that were as calm as an ancient well rippled, revealing shock and surprise, and even a trace of surprise. Di Beichen has always told her that he will come to find her when he is done. Only, she didn't expect Di Beichen to appear in front of her in such an unexpected way. Kanglan School's special enrollment? Could it be that he wanted to stay at the Azure Water School to cultivate? Haha, Di Beichen is here. That's right. It's really exciting. He must be worried about Master staying here. Haha. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were jumping around excitedly. Bailey Hongzhuang felt as if there were two balls rolling around on her head. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Did these two fellows have any awareness of being pearl hair clips? If other people were to see the hair clip rolling around on her head, wouldn't they be shocked? Fortunately, everyone's attention was now on Di Beichen, who was on the high platform, and no one noticed this. I am Di Beichen, and I am honored to be a member of Tsanglan College. His deep and mellow voice was full of magnetism. Di Beichen's handsome eyebrows carried a handsome smile, and his eyes undisguised looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in the crowd. Wearing a white dress, she was quiet and beautiful. Even standing in the crowd, she was still so conspicuous, like a luminous pearl, dazzling and captivating. Noticing Di Beichen's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth slightly rose, and a little bright smile appeared in her eyes. Di Beichen's mouth also evoked a smile, handsome and extraordinary. Chapter 334. I believe everyone already knows about the demonic beast tide that appeared in the Luo Yun mountain range. Many students were killed in the demonic beast tide. Ren Tianxiong's expression was heavy. Usually, students would go to the Luo Yun mountain range to train and complete missions. This rare demonic beast tide was really unexpected. In the history of the Azure Water School, There had never been such a large number of casualties. His mood was very heavy. The students under the stage all nodded after hearing this. They all understood that this matter was very serious. A classmate that they used to cultivate with had fallen just like that and would never come back. Everyone was feeling very sad. After discussing with the vice principal, we have decided to make an exception and recruit a new batch of students. Ren Tianxiong slowly said. With the current situation of the school, this was the only solution. The students all showed an understanding expression. The Azure Water School had always adhered to the principle of choosing the best and not the most. Therefore, the number of students in the school was not many. After the demonic beast tide, the number of students in the school became even less. Under these circumstances, it was also very good to recruit a new batch of students. Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyu discussed for a few days before making this decision. Although the quality of the students recruited under these circumstances would be slightly worse, they still maintained the principle of choosing the best. Filling the student pool was also very important. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a complicated light. It seems that the principal and vice principal made this decision after careful consideration. Gong Shaoqing, I'll leave Di Beichen's residence to you. Huan Chuyu looked at Gong Shaoqing and said. Gong Shaoqing nodded and replied, I understand. Huan Chuyu nodded slightly and looked at Dongfang Yu. You bring Di Beichen to familiarize himself with the school's environment. Vice Principal, you can rest assured. Ren Tianxiong explained a few more things in the school before leaving with Huan Chuyu. Following the departure of the two, the originally quiet morning field suddenly became lively. The gazes of the female students condensed on Di Beichen. They were too curious about Di Beichen. Gong Shaoqing was already taken, so Dongfang Yu didn't have much hope. This Di Beichen had just arrived at the academy, so they had to seize this opportunity. There was no lack of bold women in the crowd. Looking at the extraordinarily handsome Di Beichen, who was still standing on the high platform, they shouted, Di Beichen, do you have a woman you like? Hua, as soon as these words came out, the crowd went into an uproar. However, there were even more people who were jeering. The woman was hidden in the crowd, and no one knew who had shouted. Xia Jiqing's face showed a touch of amazement. I didn't expect the women of our Kanglan College to be so open. However, this Di Beichen is just like what I heard. He's even more handsome than Dongfang Yu and the others. Xia Jiqing excitedly touched Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and smiled. Don't you think so? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and couldn't deny it. Di Beichen had always been outstanding, and this excellence had far exceeded the standard of excellence in the eyes of ordinary people. Dongfang Yu and Gong Shaoqing also looked at Di Beichen with interest. As men, they could feel that Di Beichen was definitely a very outstanding man. Chapter 335. Lu Qinyue's beautiful eyes also showed curiosity. She had always thought that Gong Dage was outstanding enough. However, when she saw Di Beichen for the first time, she felt that Di Beichen was different from the rest. He was extraordinary and could even be called perfect. This was the combination of nobility and God. Even if she didn't understand his strength, from the confident smile on Di Beichen's face, it wasn't hard to guess that his strength was absolutely not weak. Hong Zhuang, do you think Di Beichen has a sweetheart? Xia Jiqing didn't hide her curiosity at all. She tilted her head and asked Bailey Hongzhuang. Just as everyone was curiously looking at Di Beichen, wanting to know how Di Beichen would answer, Di Beichen's gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Di Beichen's beautiful pink lips curled up in an evil smile. His eyes revealed a bit of craftiness. Looking at Di Beichen's smile, Bailey Hongzhuang instinctively felt that things weren't good. She was afraid that, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave, Di Beichen's voice suddenly rang out. Sorry, this one already has a wife. As soon as these words came out, the scene was once again in an uproar. Everyone was stunned. Although there was no lack of cultivators present who had already married, Outstanding men like Di Baichen had always married relatively late. What's more, to be able to make Di Baichen so calmly admit it, this wife must have made Di Baichen very satisfied. Dongfang Yu's amorous peach blossom eyes revealed a bit of a smile. This new special enrollment student's temperament is really calm, haha. Saying this, Dongfang Yu's gaze couldn't help but look at Gong Xiaoqing and the others. But when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's slightly strange expression, he frowned. Bailey Hongzhuang, what's wrong? Lu Qinyue and Xia Jiqing also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and wondered, Hongzhuang, what are you doing? However, Gong Xiaoqing noticed the way Di Baichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He had a vague premonition. It seemed like Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang knew each other? Di Baichen's reply undoubtedly hurt the hearts of the girls, who were full of expectations. It was rare for the academy to have such a handsome and extraordinary man, but he was already married. Didn't that cut off all their hopes? It was unknown whether Di Baichen was too outstanding or if the female student was joking, but a voice rang out again. Then, do you mind having another wife? Following this, the cheers grew even louder. Even the group of male students had the mentality of watching a good show. In the Shengxian continent, polygamy was a normal thing. Especially outstanding men, having several beautiful wives following behind them was a very normal thing. However, Di Baichen had only just arrived at the Azure Water School. Everyone didn't even have the slightest understanding of Di Baichen, but there were already girls who wanted to devote themselves to him. It really made people sigh with emotion. Di Baichen's mouth hooked up in an evil and elegant arc. He walked down the high platform and slowly walked towards Bailey Hongzhuang. As for this, it depends on whether my wife allows it or not. Then, under the shocked eyes of the crowd, Di Baichen walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and directly put his hand on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. Di Baichen's smile was warm and elegant, like cherry blossoms in March, gentle and intoxicating. Wife, am I right? Di Baichen's words were like a heavy bomb that exploded in an instant. Chapter 336. Xia Jiqing stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen. Previously, she had jokingly made a bet with Hongzhuang about whether or not Di Baichen had a wife. She didn't expect that the wife Di Baichen spoke of was actually Hongzhuang. This scene had changed too quickly, she couldn't change it at all. Lu Qinyue was stunned. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Xiaoqing in astonishment. This was too unexpected. Dongfang Yu and Gong Xiaoqing's expressions weren't much better. Before Di Baichen said this, they simply couldn't relate Bailey Hongzhuang to Di Baichen. Dongfang Yu's heart was stunned. He had previously inquired a lot about Bailey Hongzhuang, but he had never heard that Bailey Hongzhuang was already married. Everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Whether this was true or not, they would have to see Bailey Hongzhuang's reply. Bailey Hongzhuang helplessly looked at the handsome face in front of her. From the moment this guy appeared, she had already expected this scene to happen. Explain? She had no way to explain. Deny it? This was the truth. How could she deny it? Since it didn't work, she could only admit it. What do you think? Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of craftiness. If you are willing, I naturally have no problem. Di Baichen had kicked this question to her. She didn't want to be the villain who would shatter the hearts of thousands of young girls. It was better to directly throw this question back. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's undeniable answer, everyone had to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang was Di Baichen's wife. This discovery made the girls of the school completely collapse. Before, Dongfang Yu was the male god in everyone's mind. Who would have thought that since Bailey Hongzhuang came to the school, Dongfang Yu would be very close to her, causing everyone to be heartbroken. Now they had finally welcomed a new male god. This was only the first day he came to the school, but he was already Bailey Hongzhuang's husband? The one who strikes first gains the advantage, and the one who strikes later suffers. But Bailey Hongzhuang's speed was too fast, right? Did she want people to live? Did she want them to have a trace of hope in their hearts? At this time, Not only were the hearts of the female students broken, the male students who admired Bailey Hongzhuang were also broken. Bailey Hongzhuang was the new goddess in their minds. Who would have thought that she would fall in Bailey Hongzhuang? They didn't have the slightest hope. Now, they didn't have any hope at all. How was he a special enrollment student of the school? He clearly came to the school to find his wife. Seeing the sly look in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Di Beichen's black as jade eyes were filled with a touch of pampering and nostalgia. When he first met Bailey Hongzhuang, she was also sly, directly reaching out to him and asking for 100 gold coins. Now seeing her still standing in front of him, his heart had an indescribable joy. Fortunately, she was still well. Wife, if you say so, your husband will be sad. Di Beichen smiled evilly. My heart has always only held you, there is no room for anyone else. Everyone looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's high-profile display of affection. The whole square was scattered with the sound of heartbreak. Was it necessary? Was it necessary? Such a blatant confession simply didn't give them any chance at all. Chapter 337. Xia Jiqing looked at Di Beichen's affectionate expression. She finally understood why Hongzhuang didn't have the slightest bit of romantic feelings for Dongfang Yu. It turned out that an even better man had already appeared in her life. Although she didn't understand Di Beichen's situation, at this moment, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang standing together were truly a match made in heaven. Di Beichen was handsome, dashing and confident, while Bailey Hongzhuang was a stunning beauty. That light golden figure and that white figure intertwined, creating an indescribable harmony. She believed that with Hongzhuang's excellence, her husband would definitely not be a mediocre person. This new special enrollment student must have a lot of extraordinary aspect. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to Di Beichen's corny words and only felt a burst of uneasiness. This guy really didn't care about where he was speaking. Dongfang Yu looked at the golden couple Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang standing to the side. His peach blossom eyes that had been filled with a smile had unknowingly restrained a bit. The originally relaxed smile had disappeared and was replaced by a touch of deep sadness. It was as if the originally bright and beautiful sunny day had suddenly turned into rain. There wasn't the slightest bit of sunshine, only depression and gloom. He didn't know why, but Dongfang Yu only felt that the two people standing together were too dazzling, making his heart feel a bit stifled. Gong Shaoqing still had an unshakable iceberg face. But when Bailey Hongzhuang admitted her relationship with Di Beichen, a ripple appeared in his calm eyes. This sudden turn of events was far beyond his expectations. This was something that no one had expected. Lu Qinyue's mouth blossomed into a deep smile. When no one was paying attention, she quietly let out a sigh of relief. Her eyebrows revealed relief and relaxation. Di Beichen, since you're a new special enrollment student, I'll arrange for your room to be next to Bailey Hongzhuang's. How about it? Dongfang Yu quickly concealed the sadness in his eyes, and the corner of his mouth blossomed into his usual gentle smile. Di Beichen was supposed to stay with Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Junyu since they were all specially recruited students of the same grade. Although Dongfang Yu covered it up very quickly, it still didn't escape Di Beichen's eyes. He nodded slightly. Thank you. It seems that his Wang Fei's charm really wasn't small. Even Dongfang Yu, who had never been moved by any woman, was moved. As the morning assembly ended, the other students dispersed. Before they returned, they were filled with anticipation. After the meeting, they were heartbroken. Now that they no longer had any thoughts, there was no point in continuing to stay here. Xiao Zifen slowly walked towards Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, he knew her. Since Di Beichen was here, he should come and say hello. Chen Wangye. Xiao Zifen cupped his hands and said, I didn't expect you to also come to Kanglan College. Although he knew Di Beichen before, he had never communicated with Di Beichen. He understood that the current Chen Wangye was no longer the same as before. From the moment he stood up, he was no longer the Chen Wangye who was bullied everywhere. What's more, Kanglan College didn't accept incompetent people. Since Di Baichen was able to become a special enrollment student of Kanglan College, this proved that Di Baichen's strength was also very outstanding. Thinking of this, Xiao Zifen's heart was filled with emotion. Chapter 338. Di Baichen's eyes fell on Xiao Zifen. From He Mu's mouth, he had learned how Xiao Zifen and Hong Zhuang met. Di Baichen appreciated and was satisfied that Xiao Zifen was able to stand on Bailey Hongzhuang's side in the face of the Hellwolves. Di Baichen's thin lips slightly raised. Hong Zhuang is here, so I naturally have to come. Xiao Zifen smiled slightly. He had long heard that the relationship between Chen Wangye and Chen Wangfei was very good. Seeing it today, it really lived up to its reputation. Xianyuan Huan was not far away from Xiao Zifen and Di Baichen's conversation. The shock in his heart had not calmed down. How was this Di Baichen the same as the waste he had bullied before? For 3 years Di Baichen had never stood up. How could he suddenly stand up? Could it be Di Baichen's sudden departure was to treat his leg? Xianyuan Huan's mind turned 1,000 times. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this matter was inconceivable. It seemed that he had to quickly send this news back to confirm it. When Dongfang Yu and the others heard Xiao Zifen's name for Di Baichen, their eyes were filled with a trace of astonishment. Chen Wangye. Xia Jiqing's eyes widened. Di Baichen is a Wangye? Xiao Zifen nodded. Yes, he is a Chen Wangye. Xia Jiqing was speechless. So, Hong Zhuang, aren't you a Wangfei? Although they came to Tsanglan School with the status of a student, but the status of a prince and a princess was still extremely noble. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slightly curved. She did not care much about this identity. She had been the young miss of the general's household for 15 years. Was her identity not noble? But in fact, she had survived under the disdain and trampling of others for 15 years. It was because of this that she did not care about these identities. Di Baichen also didn't know how to react. To him, being a prince wasn't an honor, but a disgrace. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen's indifferent and even disdainful attitude made them seem even more superior in everyone's eyes. They clearly had such honorable identities, yet they were able to hide it all this time. It could be seen how extraordinary their temperaments were. Waves of shock surged in Dongfang Yu's heart. Previously, he had inquired about Bailey Hongzhuang's life in the general's household, but he didn't know what happened afterwards. It turned out that the current Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer the miss of the general's mansion, but Princess Chen of Feng Bo State, Bailey Hongzhuang. It's Di Baichen's first time at Tsanglan School. Why don't you show him around? We'll go back first. Dongfang Yu's expression was gentle, and the corner of his mouth was as warm as a peach blossom smile. It was impossible to see through his inner feelings. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment, then nodded. Okay. Even if she went back now, Di Baichen would still look for her. It just so happened that she also had some things to discuss with Di Baichen. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang so frankly agree, Dongfang Yu's heart felt even more stifled. He immediately found an excuse to leave. Gong Xiaoqing looked at Dongfang Yu's back as he left, and then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who didn't seem to notice. His gaze was slightly complicated. He and Dongfang Yu had been good friends for many years. How could he not know what the latter was thinking? Big brother Gong, Hong Zhuang and Di Baichen haven't seen each other for a long time. They must have a lot to talk about. Why don't we go first? Lu Qinyue's delicate face rippled with a faint and gentle smile. Her voice was light and cheerful. Chapter 339. Hong Zhuang, Xiao Zifen and I will also leave first. Xia Jiqing excitedly blinked at Bailey Hongzhuang. It was said that absence makes the heart grow fonder. If they continued to stay here, it would be too much of a hindrance. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed everyone's ambiguous gazes, but didn't say anything to explain. She understood that in this situation, even if she explained, no one would believe her. In this case, it was better not to explain. If everyone misunderstood, then let them be. Seeing that everyone had disappeared in a flash, Bailey Hongzhuang was a little helpless and turned to look at Di Beichen next to her. Are you done with your business? According to her understanding, Di Beichen had stayed in Feng Bo country for 3 years, so there must be a mess behind him. It was definitely not easy to deal with it. However, Di Beichen had not left for long. Could it be that he had dealt with everything in such a short time? If this was the case, then Di Beichen's efficiency in dealing with things was not ordinary. If I didn't come back, I'm afraid that my wife would have run away with someone else. Di Beichen's mouth had a charming smile, and his low and magnetic voice was full of charm and teasing. However, there was a trace of indescribable seriousness in the depths of his dark eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang was sluggish. This guy really could say anything he wanted to say. It was originally a very normal thing, but why did it sound like she was having an affair when it came out of his mouth? Xiao He and Xiao Bai looked at each other. Sure enough, this was Di Beichen's style, haha. Bailey Hongzhuang's Baisher also looked at Di Beichen. This was the second time it had seen Di Beichen since the last time it bathed in the world. However, when it thought of the last time, oh, it was really embarrassing. Baisher lowered its head again and arched in Bailey Hongzhuang's arms. It was a very shy beast. Nonsense. Bailey Hongzhuang refuted. She knew that the 2 restless fellows above her must be laughing at her in their hearts. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen's eyes lit up and the smile on his face became even more beautiful and enchanting. In that case, even if I am not by wife's side, wife's heart is still concerned about me? Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. She angrily stared at the devilish face in front of her. This was a trap. This was a huge trap. Di Beichen had clearly calculated everything. No matter how she answered, she would definitely fall into his trap. You think too much. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes and spoke with a hint of coldness. However, Di Beichen was completely unaware of it. The smile on his face was still brilliant and the gaze he used to look at Bailey Hongzhuang with was still gentle. He tightened his grip on Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. Today is really a good day. I am in a very good mood to be able to see my wife again. Bailey Hongzhuang then noticed that Di Beichen's hand was still on her shoulder. She could not help but ask, "Can you let go of this hand now?" Di Beichen raised his brows. He did not want to let go, but when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's cold expression, he quietly let go. Of course, I will listen to my wife's words. Bailey Hongzhuang furrowed her brows. Don't tell me you are too immersed in your role? I'm not your wife. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, the smile on Di Beichen's face faded a little, and his eyes became a little more serious. Don't tell me you don't want to be my wife? Chapter 340. However, just when Bailey Hongzhuang thought that Di Beichen finally understood, the latter's voice suddenly rang out. Then, this prince will call you Princess Consort? I'm not your wife, nor am I your Princess Consort. Bailey Hongzhuang emphasized. Was this guy clear about their relationship, or was Di Beichen trying to confuse their relationship? Okay, whatever you say, Di Beichen hurriedly said. Then, I'll call you Zhuanger or Little Sweetheart. I'll call you whatever you like, how about it? Di Beichen was full of smiles. His originally handsome face, coupled with this bright smile, was like the brightest pearl, dazzling people's eyes. However, in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, it wasn't the case, really? Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth hooked up in an enchanting smile. You'll call me whatever I like? Of course. Di Beichen blinked his starry eyes, his expression sincere and gentle. But if you call me Bailey Hongzhuang or something like that, it won't show how close we are. Bailey Hongzhuang was defeated. She shouldn't have discussed this with this guy. After all, in terms of shamelessness, she was definitely not Di Beichen's opponent. After Dongfang Yu returned to his room, Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinyue went to find him. Dongfang, when you were investigating earlier, why didn't you find out that Bailey Hongzhuang is Princess Consort Chen? Gong Shaoqing asked in a deep voice. What happened today was truly beyond their expectations, catching them completely off guard. Dongfang Yu sighed slightly. I only asked about Bailey Hongzhuang in the general's estate, but I didn't ask about what happened after she left the general's estate. He remembered that at that time, the other party seemed to want to say something to him, but someone happened to come looking for him, so he didn't say anything. I see. Gong Xiaoqing's expression was complicated. I've always heard that Feng Bo country's Prince Chen is a peerless talent, but his legs are crippled. Today I see that he is a dragon among men. A surprised expression appeared on Lu Qinyue's elegant and beautiful face. Di Beichen is the crippled prince of Feng Bo country? Feng Bo country's crippled prince was very famous, but she only knew about the crippled prince. She didn't know that this prince was Di Beichen. In that case, it's amazing that Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen are together. Lu Qinyue couldn't hide the surprise in her eyes. The situation of Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen before was too similar. After the marriage, the two people were like different people. Looking at Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen now, no one would be able to connect them with the bullied miss of the general's estate and the crippled prince. Dongfang Yu and Gong Xiaoqing's expressions were also very strange. It seemed that this matter was really too bizarre. Bailey Hongzhuang's change was already hard to believe, and now there was another Di Beichen. It was really too shocking. Suddenly, Gong Xiaoqing's eyes lit up. Bailey Hongzhuang is a godly doctor. Could it be that she cured Di Beichen's legs? When these words came out, Dongfang Yu and Lu Qinyue's eyes lit up. From the matter of Bailey Hongzhuang curing Cui Haoyan, it could be seen that the poison that even the vice principal was helpless against was easily cured by Bailey Hongzhuang. It could be seen that Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were brilliant. Chapter 341. I'm afraid that's the case. Dongfang Yu's eyes flashed with a pondering light as he nodded his head. Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed a strange woman. Her appearance caused the people around her to undergo earth-shattering changes. This Di Beichen is also not a simple character. Gong Xiaoqing's eyes were deep and distant. Previously, I only heard that Feng Bo country's Prince Chen was born with a disability and was bullied everywhere. But since his legs were healed, his strength has also become so strong. It can be seen that his cultivation is not something that can be done overnight. At least, his cultivation. I can't see through it. Gong Xiaoqing's deep and magnetic voice was filled with complex emotions. His face was grave and stern, and it was impossible to see his emotions. Dongfang Yu nodded his head in agreement. Yes, his strength is unfathomable. Hearing Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu's words, Lu Qinyue's eyes widened in disbelief. You too can't see through his strength? As everyone knows, when the difference in strength is large, the weaker cultivator can't see through the cultivation of the stronger cultivator. Since Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu can't see through it, it proves that Di Beichen's strength is not ordinary. Even if Di Beichen is slightly older than them, such a large gap in strength is still amazing. It seems that Di Beichen's purpose is not to come to Azure Water School to cultivate. I'm afraid it's completely for Bailey Hongzhuang. Gong Xiaoqing's cold voice was filled with certainty. With just a little thought, he could judge everything. This Prince Chen is definitely not a simple person, and Bailey Hongzhuang is very important to him. Dongfang Yu's slightly red peach blossom eyes were filled with wisdom, but a trace of bitterness quietly emerged in his heart. With Di Beichen's strength, there is no need for him to waste time at Azure Water School. But for Bailey Hongzhuang, he specially came. From this, it can be seen how important Bailey Hongzhuang is in Di Beichen's heart. Whether it was appearance or strength, Di Beichen was impeccable. Coupled with his sincerity towards Bailey Hongzhuang, they were truly an enviable couple. There were some waves in Lu Qinyue's eyes. This matter really gave her too much of a shock. Bailey Hongzhuang had once carried the title of trash, but in her opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang was not only strong, her medical skills were superb, and she was even a rare peerless genius in alchemy. It was hard to believe that such a perfect woman had lived for 15 years in humiliation. Could it be that the people of Feng Bo country were all idiots? If that wasn't the case, why would they trample on a genius that any power would view as a treasure? Looking at Lu Qinyue's constantly changing expression, Gong Shaoqing said, "No matter what the identity of Bailey Hongzhuang is, she is our friend." Hearing this, Lu Qinyue's mind shook. Big Brother Gong was protecting Hongzhuang? Big Brother Gong, who usually didn't care about worldly affairs, suddenly said this because he was worried that it would lead to some unfavorable speculations towards Hongzhuang. Dongfang Yu also nodded. "That's right, we only need to know that Hongzhuang is our friend. That's enough." Bailey Hongzhuang took Di Beichen for a tour around Azure Water School before bringing Di Beichen to the special enrollment dormitory. Looking at the door next door that already had Di Beichen's name hanging on it, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh. Azure Water School's efficiency was extremely fast. Chapter 342. Di Beichen's gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's door, teasing, "Wifey, won't you invite me in to sit? The new students' dormitories are all the same. If you want to sit, you can go directly into your room." Di Beichen's lips slightly rose, revealing a teasing smile. "Wifey's room is always different. That night I came in too much of a hurry. I didn't see it too carefully, I'm afraid. I have to think about it." Following Di Beichen's voice, Bailey Hongzhuang's face flew up with a touch of red clouds. She naturally understood what Di Beichen was talking about. If she was not defenseless, how could she let Di Beichen take advantage of her? Shame, shame, shame. "Gotcha." Bailey Hongzhuang opened the door. "Come in." Di Beichen's smile widened a bit, stepping into Bailey Hongzhuang's room. Although his wifey was completely capable of taking care of herself, but she was still very shy about this kind of thing, making his heart soften. "Are you really going to cultivate at the Azure Water School?" Bailey Hongzhuang's elegant and refined face revealed some doubts, looking at Di Beichen with some puzzlement. Although the Azure Water School was the most ideal place for cultivation in the minds of many cultivators, but that was only for low-level cultivators. The black and white fluff balls had already told her before that Di Beichen's strength was very strong. To be able to make the black and white fluff balls say that Di Beichen was very strong, his strength was truly strong. It was precisely because of this that the Azure Water School would not be of much help to Di Beichen. Di Beichen's mouth hooked up in an evil charming arc, smiling ambiguously and warmly. "Wherever wifey is, your husband will naturally be there." Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Di Beichen. This guy's words were so ambiguous, simply not proper. "You're so talkative, I'm seriously asking you." Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black jade-like beautiful eyes revealed some helplessness. She said with a straight face. Di Beichen smiled handsomely. "What I said is also true." Bailey Hongzhuang was speechless for a while. Just as she was about to speak, she saw the seriousness in Di Beichen's eyes. Her eyes suddenly focused. What he said was true. But Bailey Hongzhuang did not understand. Why did he want to stay with her at the Azure Water School? With Di Beichen's identity, he could be called a proud son of the heavens. She had told him all herbs. She had already told him all the herbs' herbs. The herbs she had told these find herbs stays. STT, if it's for your body, you can come back to me after you've found all the herbs. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Di Beichen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. A complex look flashed through his black pupils. "To me, you're not a doctor." Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to speak, Di Beichen continued. "No matter where I practice, it's still practice, you don't have to worry about me." Bailey Hongzhuang also fell into silence. It was really hard to explain. The relationship between the two of them seemed to have a trace of ambiguity that was hard to say. "Come in." Suddenly, Di Beichen said towards the door. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows showed a trace of doubt. She did not know what Di Beichen meant. Was there someone outside the door? As soon as his voice fell, the door was opened. He Mu, dressed in black, walked in. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, he bowed and said, "Miss Bailey." He Mu. Chapter 343. Now that she saw the two of them again, her heart was filled with an indescribable joy. It was just that she did not show it in front of Di Beichen. Di Beichen saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was so happy to see He Mu, and a trace of astonishment appeared in his dark eyes. Wasn't this a little too enthusiastic? Could it be that his wife liked He Mu's type? Miss Bailey. He Mu's face was filled with guilt. When His Highness left, he left me in charge of your safety. I didn't think that I would fail to protect you during the demonic beast rampage and put you in danger. He Mu. I really don't have the face to see Miss Bailey and His Highness anymore. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. Earlier, when the black and white furballs had warned her, she knew that someone had been following her. Originally, she had wanted to wait and see who was following her. Later, she found that this person had been following her like a shadow and had not done anything harmful. It was because of this that she did not find out who was following her. She did not expect that He Mu had been following her all this time. No wonder Di Beichen had rushed over after the demonic beast rampage. She knew that Di Beichen could not have found out that she had met with danger during the demonic beast rampage so quickly. So it was He Mu who had told him. An excited smile appeared on Xiao Hei's face. Di Beichen definitely likes Master. Otherwise, why would he ask He Mu to protect her? He Mu is Di Beichen's personal hidden guard. I think so too. Otherwise, why would Di Beichen be in such a hurry to come back? Xiao Bai nodded in agreement. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai's conversation, and her mind was filled with thousands of thoughts. She naturally understood that Di Beichen had left He Mu by her side. It was clear that Di Beichen valued her greatly, but the demonic beast rampage happened too suddenly. This is very normal. You don't have to take it to heart. Bailey Hongzhuang comforted her. This was completely an accident, and it was not something that could be changed by human means. She could completely understand why He Mu couldn't save her in time. Not to mention He Mu, even she was helpless at such a crucial moment, wasn't she? It was already not easy for He Mu to survive the demonic beast tide. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, He Mu felt even more apologetic. He didn't complete the task given to him by the young master. Seeing Miss Bailey being so understanding, he felt even more guilty. Miss Bailey, I promise that I will never put you in danger again. He Mu's expression was serious. Once was enough for such a mistake. If there was a second time, there was no need for the young master to say anything. He could just go and die. Di Beichen narrowed his eyes as he observed the situation between Bailey Hongzhuang and He Mu. Suddenly, he heard He Mu vow that he wouldn't put Bailey Hongzhuang in danger. Why did he feel that something was wrong? It looked like he would have to find someone else to protect Bailey Hongzhuang in the future. He couldn't leave any threat behind. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. He Mu, you don't have to worry too much. Just protect Di Beichen well. Di Beichen waved his hand. He Mu, since my wife has already forgiven you, you can leave. He Mu nodded and turned to leave the room. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. Her clear eyes were filled with gratitude as she slowly said, "Thank you." Chapter 344. Di Beichen's gaze landed on the white lion in Bailey Hongzhuang's arms. This is the demon pet you obtained from the royal hunting competition? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right, it's him. I named him White Lion. White Lion. Good name. Di Beichen stroked White Lion's head. This little guy is quite cute. Bailey Hongzhuang patted White Lion's head. Ever since Di Beichen arrived, this little guy had been burying his head. Only its white furry body could be seen, but not its appearance. After being patted by Bailey Hongzhuang, White Lion raised his head and looked at Di Beichen. When Di Beichen saw White Lion's appearance clearly, shock surfaced on his extraordinarily handsome face. His hand touched the king word on White Lion's head. The shock in his eyes had yet to dissipate. This is actually a beast king? Seeing that Di Baichen and Mo Yunjie back then had generally said that White Lion was a beast king, Bailey Hongzhuang also confirmed White Lion's identity. You know about beast kings? Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes slightly raised. I don't know much about beast kings, can you introduce them? Di Baichen nodded. Naturally, no problem. From Di Baichen's introduction, Bailey Hongzhuang had a certain understanding of the beast king's identity. As it turned out, this beast king had only appeared a few hundred years ago. In her previous life, beast kings didn't exist, so she didn't know anything about them. A few hundred years ago, there was a huge change in the demonic beast forest. Many demonic beasts went extinct, and some new demonic beasts were born. Beast kings were the most special and the most powerful among these newly born demonic beasts. Once a beast king appeared, all demonic beasts bowed their heads. A beast king was in existence that commanded all demonic beasts. The most special thing was that there was always only one beast king. Only when the old beast king fell would a new beast king appear. Therefore, the beast king was an extremely terrifying existence. Logically speaking, it was impossible for a beast king to become a cultivator's contracted beast. However, it had now become Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beast. This was simply too unbelievable. The royal family is actually so generous? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. I'm afraid that even they themselves don't know what kind of demonic beast is sealed in this demonic beast egg. Di Baichen nodded. A beast king is a precious pet beast that many forces would scramble to get their hands on. If the royal family knew about this, they definitely wouldn't have offered it as a reward. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. From the fact that Baisher was able to stop the monstrous beast tide with a single roar, one could see how extraordinary Baisher was. If the royal family knew about this, they would probably regret it so much that their intestines turned green. When Di Baichen saw that Bailey Hongzhuang did not seem to care, he could not help but emphasize, Baisher's identity should not be exposed. Once others know about it, it will inevitably be coveted. At that time, you will be in danger. A man's wealth is his own ruin. Based on Bailey Hongzhuang's current level of power, she was still unable to protect Baisher. Seeing Di Baichen's serious expression, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I understand. Then what do you plan to do? Di Baichen frowned. Since Baisher was Bailey Hongzhuang's pet beast, it would naturally follow her around. It couldn't possibly stay in the house every day, could it? A confident and enchanting smile appeared on the corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lip. I have my own ways. Di Baichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang suspiciously. However, Bailey Hongzhuang always had her own unique methods. Chapter 345. After I left this time, I also inquired about the Lan family's situation, Di Baichen slowly said. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed and a serious expression appeared on her pure and beautiful face. How was it? That jade pendant was her only proof of identity. Ever since she found out she wasn't Bailey Zhentian's biological daughter, she had always worn it in front of her chest. She also wanted to know more about her origins. Di Baichen pursed his thin lips, his handsome eyes heavy. The Lan family sealed off the news very tightly. I sent people to inquire about it, but the Lan family members all kept their mouths shut about this matter. However, it still confirmed that Lan Yunxiao had a falling out with the family. Furthermore, it happened exactly 15 years ago. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed. The time matched, plus the matter of the jade pendant. If there was no accident in the middle, she was afraid that this was her real identity. Did you find out why Lan Yunxiao had a falling out with the family? Bailey Hongzhuang was puzzled. Since Lan Yunxiao was the Lan family head's most beloved son and was very likely to become the next successor of the Lan family, then, there was no reason for Lan Yunxiao to fall out with the family. Di Baichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a complicated expression. I also heard some news. I'm afraid it was because of you that Lan Yunxiao fell out with the family. Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. Because of me? Di Baichen nodded. That's right. This news was very secretive. Even after I inquired about it many times, I only found a few words. However, after piecing together the information, I roughly understood the truth. Do you remember your dantian shattering? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, as deep as an ancient well, rippled. You mean to say that the reason why Lan Yunxiao and the Lan family became enemies was because my dantian was broken? Could it be that my dantian's shattering was caused by someone? When this conjecture appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind, her eyes instantly turned sharp. All along, she had thought that the shattering of her dantian was caused by her birth. After all, the world was full of wonders. Although it was rare for a newborn to have their dantian shattered, it was not unheard of. But if all of this was man-made, then the 15 years of suffering that Bailey Hongzhuang had suffered were all caused by this person. That's very likely. Di Baichen's face darkened, his expression unfathomable. That's why Lan Yunxiao left the Lan family with his wife and daughter. In that case, the person who destroyed my dantian is from the Lan clan. Bailey Hongzhuang was very smart. Although Di Baichen did not say it clearly, she had already analyzed the situation. If this was true, then there was no doubt that she was carrying hatred. At that time I was just a child. How cruel was the other party to actually attack a child? A baby in swaddling clothes actually had his dantian forcefully destroyed. What kind of pain was that? What kind of hatred did the other party have for them to be so cruel? I haven't found out about this matter yet. It's obviously the Lan family's top secret, but I will find out more. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. With Lan Yunxiao's status in the Lan family, the person who wanted to attack him was definitely someone with a high status in the Lan family. Moreover, for a large family of cultivators like the Lan family, a baby in swaddling clothes being murdered was no less than a huge scandal.